What if I told you the people you worry about losing might be the ones hurting you little by little? Every fake smile you put on, every relationship where you give more than you get, takes away from what you can focus on, your calm, and what you could achieve. Who in your life makes you feel good but doesn't tell you the truth? Who have you kept around, not because they should be there, but because you're scared of what it would mean if they weren't there and you didn't say anything? Getting stronger isn't about having more people around. It's about getting rid of the ones who hold you back. The world tells you to meet more people, grow your network, and be liked. But Stoic ideas tell us we worry more than we need to. We stay stuck with people who bring us down, not because we care about them, but because we're afraid. This isn't just about getting rid of the bad influences. It's about getting your head clear. The real problem isn't what's outside. It's the weakness you let grow inside your group. And if you're strong enough to see that, you're doing better than most people. If you want to be calm, control yourself, and be strong inside, join us. Think of it as a promise to want more for yourself, live how you choose, and protect your peace like something very precious. Feels nice. It's calm, easy, and goes smoothly. Someone agrees with you, repeats what you say, helps you with everything, and for a moment you feel like they see you, understand you, and support you. But it's in that quietness where problems start. Because what seems like loyalty is often just people trying to protect themselves. Not everyone who agrees with you is really on your side. In fact, the person who always agrees with you might be the one who's ready to leave when you need them. True loyalty means something. It has a real shape. It might cause arguments, disagreements, and make things uncomfortable. But most people don't want the truth. They want to feel safe by fitting in, not being different. So they change. They copy what you do. They act like they agree, not because they really do, but because they think it will help them. Remember when someone agreed with your plan, but vanished when it went wrong? When things got tough, they backed away, kept their distance, and acted like they never said anything in the first place. It wasn't a clear, obvious betrayal. It was more like being left behind politely. That's the problem with people who always agree. Their silence seems helpful until it becomes like they're not even there. Epictetus said something that shows we don't value what's truly important. We look for comfort and surround ourselves with people who make us feel good, not those who help us improve. So, we gather people who support us, are like us, and smile at us, but they disappear as soon as things get shaky. These aren't real friends. They're just watching. And when you start doing better, they either become quiet or clap without meaning it because they never cared about your success. They just wanted to be near you without putting in any effort. Carl Jung knew a lot about this hidden nature. He thought people wear masks to fool others and also to hide from their own mixed feelings, and your friendly pals do the same. They don't lie to be mean. They lie to get by. Their agreement is like a cover, a way to stay liked, to be close to power, to keep safe from being watched closely. But when things get tough, when the truth is needed, they try to survive, and their silence is like they're not there. And that's when you see loyalty that's easy to give is worth nothing. True loyalty causes trouble. It stops you when you're losing your way. It faces you when you won't admit something. It talks even when everyone is uneasy. You want people who will work with you to be honest, not just say nice things. True loyalty means someone will tell you the hard truth, even if it's not easy to hear. Loyalty isn't just being quiet and agreeing. A loyal person takes part. They give you their thoughts, question what you think, and bring their whole self to the table. They'll be honest with you, even when they don't agree, but they'll do it respectfully, not to cause trouble. The difference between someone who's loyal and someone who's just quiet is that the loyal person will risk making things awkward, while the quiet person will do anything to avoid it. Seneca said that if a friendship can end, it was never real. The same is true for loyalty. If someone is only around when things are going well, when you're right, or when you're successful, they're not really loyal. They're just looking out for themselves, or what's easy. You can't build anything strong with that kind of support. You can't grow with people who always agree but never speak up. When people don't say anything, it might seem like they're on your side. But later, their silence will feel like the biggest emptiness you've ever known. So pay more attention. Listen to the people who question you in a kind way, not in an angry way. See who is brave enough to say, "I don't think you're right," but still sticks with you. That's special. It's strong, and you need to see it. The people who always agree with you aren't showing they're true friends. They're hiding what they really think. They're watching you closely, learning how you act, using the same words you use, not because they believe in you, but because it's easier than being different. And when things get hard, when people question your choices, when the things you decided start to fail, those same people will disappear. Or even worse, they'll say, "I never really thought it would work," not because they were against you, but because they were never really on your side. They were never loyal to you. They were only loyal to keeping themselves comfortable. You should have better than that. You should have people who will tell you the truth, even if it hurts. People who stay with you when things get bad. People who push you to be better, not break you down. That is real loyalty, and it's not as common as you think. In a world where everyone wants to agree, be someone who likes the person who speaks up. People who stay quiet to avoid problems will leave when the problems come. Then you'll wonder if they were ever really there. They'll say they're just having a bad day, then another and another. One minute they're excited and full of big plans. The next they're sad and unsure, and they make you feel bad too. They don't get angry. They don't try to hurt you on purpose. They just fall apart little by little, and they ask you to take care of them and their problems. At first, it seems okay, like someone you care about is just having a hard time. But as time passes, how unsure they are becomes normal for you. Their feelings control how calm you feel. Their being mixed up makes it hard for you to think clearly. You start to change yourself, make yourself smaller, and make up for them, not because they tell you to, but because they never become steady. And when someone can't find their balance, they start to depend on you. This isn't them getting help. It slowly wears you down. It's what Carl Jung called the risk of becoming too close to someone. When one person's emotional hurts start to mix with another person's sense of self, you don't see it right away. It starts slowly. You let it go, you feel sorry for them, you stay calm because you're a good person, because you think people can get better. And they can, but not everyone will. And not everyone wants to. Some people like their habits more than what they could become. They want you around, but not to see you get better. They want your time, but not what you really think. And when you start to do well, they don't support you. They get scared. As you climb higher, their hidden pain comes out. So they try to bring you down. Not in a strong or clear way, but with their feelings. They use guilt, make you feel like you have to help, or become silent to get you to notice them. Their pain becomes like a show you have to watch every day. Stoic ideas say we should keep what is ours, our thinking, our focus, our path, and not let things we can't control take it away. But feelings and being unsure can steal from you without you knowing. They make you think you're responsible for how they feel. But you're not. Their changing moods are not your fault. Their mess is not yours to deal with. Helping is different from taking on their problems, and feeling for them is different from getting caught up in their problems. If someone's changing behavior takes away your peace, that's not love. It's needing someone disguised as being close. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your soul changes with your thoughts. But what happens when you start to take in someone else's feelings? A relationship that's not steady doesn't fall apart suddenly. It happens when you wake up feeling more tired than awake, when you feel bad for being happy, when they are quiet and distant after you've been lively. It's not open jealousy, it's hurting yourself while pretending to need help. And if you're not careful, you'll feel like you have to take care of both of you, like you have to fix their bad moods that you didn't cause, like you have to support someone who won't stand on their own. You're not here to fix their problems, you're here to grow. And growing needs steadiness. It needs energy that builds up, not energy that disappears every time someone you know forgets how to be independent. The hard truth is this. Not everyone can do what you're doing, not because they're bad, not because they dislike you, but because they're still looking for a reason to keep going. And sometimes they see where you're headed as a danger, like a mirror showing them everything they haven't dealt with. Instead of growing with you, they give up and ask you, without saying it, to take care of everything and their doubts too. Seneca said that life is long if you use it well, but time spent dealing with changing feelings isn't living, it's being stuck. It keeps you tied to things that never end, talks that repeat, sorries that come too late, promises that vanish quickly. And the more you try to help someone who won't get steady, the more you lose your own balance. This doesn't mean you become uncaring. It means you become clear. Caring without limits isn't good. It's ignoring yourself. You can say, I love you, but I can't support you anymore. That's not leaving them. That's growing up. Find people who've worked hard, dealt with problems, and know how to get back up. Choose those who add to the group, not mess it up, and who don't need constant help when things get tough. These are the people who will support you when you're down, who will be happy for your success, and who won't feel bad when you do well. They're not perfect, but they're steady and down to earth. These kinds of people give you energy, not take it away. They make you better. They help you. They don't just take. And when life gets hard, they share the load, not ask you to carry them. The people in your life either make you feel calm or stressed. They either help you grow or make you doubt yourself. It's not about judging, it's about knowing the difference. And when you start to value your time, your energy, and your peace of mind, you'll stop seeing promise in unreliability. You'll start calling it what it is, being unstable, and you'll stop trying to work around it. When you let things that don't fit stay around, they don't just stay put. They grow. They change how you live. They change what you can handle. They make things that are wrong feel okay. And that's not a strong way to live. That's giving up little by little. You're not heartless for leaving messy feelings behind. You're not mean for picking a calm life over feeling sorry for someone. You can protect what you care about, like your goals, your future, and your passion. Like Jung said, the best thing you can do in life is to be yourself, and you can't be yourself when things are always changing and unsteady. So if someone's life is full of falling apart, let them fall. Not because you want them to, but because you won't go down with them. And that's also a kind of love, the kind that knows when to stay and when to leave. It feels weird to be with someone who talks too much, but not because they're happy or excited. It's something different. They explain too much. They give reasons for things you didn't even ask about. They quickly say why they were late before you mention it. They explain what they said yesterday, why it sounded wrong, how they didn't mean it that way, and why it's not right for you to get the wrong idea. At first it seems okay, maybe even thoughtful. But after a while you see what's happening. These people aren't trying to connect with you. They're trying to control how you see them. Every word is a way to protect themselves, not a real conversation. Every explanation is a way to hide, not the truth. And the more they talk, the less you really know them. Explaining too much doesn't mean someone is honest. It's a small sign that the truth isn't strong enough by itself. Always needing to be in charge of how things look, to make their actions seem better, isn't being open. It's knowing they'll be judged. It's fixing things before they even break, because they know their actions don't match how they want to be seen. They hope that if they talk a lot, you won't notice the difference between what they say and what they do. Marcus Aurelius told us not to waste time talking about what a good person should be. Just be one. But people who over-explain don't do this. They argue, give lots of details, and cover up their mistakes with nice words, hoping the truth gets hidden before it's seen. We live in a world where words are easy to find, but being a good person is rare. Someone who is honest doesn't need to convince you. Their actions do it for them. They have an impact without being loud. They aren't perfect, but they admit their mistakes without making excuses. Carl Jung once said, "What you do is what matters, not what you say you will do." And that's right. People who talk too much often try to hide that they're not honest. They don't like quiet because in quiet what they do is clear and what they do isn't good enough. When someone always needs to explain what they mean to do, change how you see what they do, or fix every mistake before you even notice, ask yourself why they're so quick to do that. Why are they scared? Because when people are honest, they can wait. They can let what they do show who they are, even when what they do isn't perfect, because they know they usually do the right thing. They don't need to make up stories about every little thing. They know that who they are will be clear over time, but people who explain too much live in the moment, always fixing problems, scared that if they stop talking, they'll be seen for who they are. And they're not always trying to be bad. Often they just don't feel sure of themselves. It's a deep-rooted fear of being misunderstood, of being disliked, of losing control. But that doesn't make it harmless, because when someone is always on the defensive, even when there's no offense, you end up carrying their anxiety. You start questioning your own instincts. You begin second-guessing your perceptions. Their performance becomes your confusion. And eventually, your clarity, the clarity that Stoicism values above all, gets clouded by the sheer noise of their explanations. It's also a control tactic, whether conscious or not. By flooding the space with justifications, they're not just avoiding accountability, they're overriding your right to form your own interpretation. They want to decide how you see them, rather than letting you observe and conclude for yourself. And when someone is afraid of your honest judgment, they will try to narrate their way into innocence again and again. But innocence doesn't require a monologue. Innocence holds still. It's not scared of being misunderstood because it knows the truth lasts even when not spoken. Seneca said a person's value is only as big as their goals. But I think their value also shows in how they act when people see them. People who like themselves don't need to explain everything they do. They let what they want to do happen without forcing it, knowing they might be seen the wrong way sometimes, but picking honesty over how they look to others. They're fine with being misunderstood because they know who they are when they're alone. But people who explain too much act like they're always being watched and judged and have to always put on a show to feel safe. You eventually learn to stop listening to what people say and start watching what they do. And when you do, things become clearer. The person who explains too much is often hiding too much. They're trying to be ahead of what you think because they don't believe their actions would be good enough if really looked at. And the moment you stop giving them the reaction they want, they panic. Not because you've been unfair, but because their masks start slipping without the glue of constant narration. Watch how people act in silence. Notice how they behave when they're not defending themselves. See who shows up without needing applause, who apologizes without a prepared speech, who admits fault without spiraling into justification. That's where real trust is built. Not in words, but in presence. Not in explanations, but in patterns. And when someone has to constantly manage your view of them, they don't trust themselves, and they're asking you to do the emotional labor of maintaining the image they've created. You don't owe anyone that. You're not here to be manipulated by well-crafted words or emotionally packaged excuses. You're here to observe, to learn, to protect your energy by trusting patterns more than promises. People reveal themselves not in what they say, but in what they repeat. And the person who talks you into trusting them is usually the one you should trust the least. Let their silence speak. Let their actions echo. And when the words pile up too fast, ask yourself, what truth are they trying so hard to keep buried? Because what is real never needs convincing. It just is. They come into your life quietly, usually with admiration. They echo your language, pick up your tone, start quoting your ideas like they've lived them. At first it feels like alignment, like someone finally understands you, like you found a kindred spirit. But slowly something feels off. It not just that they agreeing with you, it that they becoming you. Mannerisms, phrases, even your values, they mirror it all. But imitation, no matter how convincing, lacks one essential element: belief. Because what they absorbed isn't your essence, it's your image. And when the environment changes, when your path shifts, or when you stop feeding them direction, they start to disappear. Or worse, they reinvent themselves in someone else's shadow, just like they did in yours. Some people would rather become whatever the moment rewards. They adapt not to grow, but to survive. And in survival mode, authenticity is discarded for approval. These are not strategists with a plan. They're chameleons with no center. They're not building anything real. They're blending, hiding behind borrowed beliefs and recycled personas. They know how to say the right things in the right rooms, but when those rooms change, so do they. Because at their core, they aren't anchored to anything deeper than proximity to power or relevance. When someone builds a connection based entirely on imitation, it may feel flattering at first, even familiar. But there's a difference between resonance and replication. True connection is born when two people stand in their own truth and meet eye to eye, not when one follows and mimics to maintain closeness. It might be subtle at first. They adopt your philosophy. They mirror your routines. They adjust their goals to align with yours. But the closer they get, the more you'll start to feel it, this uneasy sense that you're being followed, not joined. You'll notice that when you slow down, they slow down. When you shift course, they shift too. Not out of shared vision, but out of fear of losing access. That's not loyalty. It's dependency in disguise. And this dependency is fragile. The moment you create distance or challenge them to stand on their own, the cracks show. They become confused, even resentful. They might lash out or ghost you altogether because their connection to you wasn't built on mutual respect. It was built on mimicry, and mimicry cannot survive without constant exposure to the source. Epictetus taught that it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. The chameleon already believes they mastered your path because they rehearsed it so well. But rehearsed wisdom isn't lived wisdom, and when life tests their imitation, it falls apart. This is why you must learn to separate those who walk with you from those who walk in your shadow. A shadow always disappears when the light changes. Real people remain. They don't need to imitate you because they're busy becoming themselves. They may admire you, be inspired by you, even learn from you, but they will never dilute themselves to match you because their identity isn't threatened by yours. In fact, they want to be challenged. Anchors don't drift. They stay grounded not by copying, but by contributing something distinct. They bring perspective, friction, honesty, qualities that demand self-awareness and inner strength. You don't need echoes in your life. You need anchors. People who don't vanish when the season changes. People who stay rooted in their own truth while helping you grow in yours. Because relationships built on imitation breed silence. No new ideas, no growth, just repetition. And over time, that becomes suffocating. You find yourself drained, not by conflict, but by the constant emptiness of being around someone who only reflects and never reveals. And as flattering as it may seem, there's something profoundly lonely about being surrounded by mirrors. Even Socrates, in his relentless pursuit of truth, warned against the false comfort of unexamined lives. A person who imitates others without ever turning inward is living a life borrowed, not built. Their words don't originate from experience. Their values don't rise from hardship or reflection. They simply adopt what seems to work. But life eventually reveals what's real. Trials test conviction. Pressure exposes pretenders. And when the time comes, the chameleon slips away, looking for another skin to wear. That's why discernment matters. Look closely at the people around you. Do they challenge you? Offer new perspectives? Hold their ground when they disagree? Or do they simply conform to your rhythm because it's safer than being seen? The Stoics taught that clarity begins with courage, the courage to see people for who they are, not just for how they appear when they agree with you. And once you see through imitation, you can't unsee it. You start recognizing when someone is curating themselves instead of expressing themselves. And in that moment, you have a choice. Continue nurturing a reflection or seek out real relationships. Let your circle be made of those who have roots, not masks. People who don't just blend in when it's convenient, but who stand firm when it's hard. Because if everyone around you is simply echoing your thoughts, your vision is being distorted. You're no longer evolving. You're being applauded by an audience that doesn't know the meaning of silence, let alone substance. Choose those who don't need to become you to respect you. Choose those who don't follow your path, but walk alongside you on their own. Because power doesn't come from being imitated. It comes from standing beside those strong enough to stand alone. Some people don't walk into your life, they rush in. From the very beginning, they open up, fast, too fast. Within hours of knowing you, they're sharing the deepest parts of their past, exposing wounds that most people take years to speak about. They confess traumas, tell you secrets, and swear this connection is unlike anything they've ever felt. And at first, you might mistake it for trust, for vulnerability, for something real. But it isn't. It's performance. It's a tactic disguised as truth, because intimacy, when it's genuine, is never rushed. It unfolds slowly, quietly, authentically. What they're offering isn't intimacy, it's manufactured closeness. And it's not for your benefit, it's for control. This kind of emotional fast-tracking isn't about bonding, it's about anchoring you, about making you feel so emotionally entangled so early on that any attempt to create space later feels like abandonment. And when you do try to pull back, when your intuition tells you that something doesn't feel right, they don't react with grace. They remind you of how much they shared, how close they were, you've become, how you must care because they were so open with you. But openness without boundaries is not vulnerability, it's manipulation. It's a carefully disguised way to force guilt into what should be freedom. It's what Carl Jung warned against when he spoke of projection, because what they share isn't always about connection. It's about using you as a container for feelings they refuse to process alone. Manufactured intimacy creates confusion. On the surface, it feels flattering. Someone is letting you in. They're trusting you. They're choosing you. But real vulnerability doesn't come without context or pace or discernment. And when it does, it's not something that demands reciprocity. It invites it gently when the time is right. The kind of forced closeness we're talking about feels different. It's sticky. It's rushed. It's drenched in emotion but lacking in depth because what's happening isn't trust, it's pressure. You're being emotionally cornered into a role you didn't ask for. Not a friend, not a partner, a savior, a therapist, a witness to chaos you never signed up to hold. The Stoics believed in measured connection, in being slow to speak, slow to trust, and quick to observe. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But this kind of emotional flooding doesn't give you time to react. It overwhelms you, making reflection almost impossible. And before you know it, you're pulled into their storm. Not by force, but by sentiment. You didn't fall into a relationship. You were dragged into an emotional contract you never had a chance to read. And this is where the sabotage begins. You start feeling responsible for their emotional well-being. You begin censoring yourself to avoid triggering their insecurity. You avoid distance, not because you want closeness, but because you're afraid of how they'll respond. You fear being called cold, distant, uncaring. They don't ask for love. They demand proof of it constantly. And if you don't give it, they make you feel like you've broken something sacred, something you never agreed to in the first place. This is why trauma bonding is so dangerous. It bypasses the natural process of trust. Instead of growing together, you're trauma welded. Their wounds become the glue. And the more you try to detach, the more they bleed on purpose just to keep you close. True intimacy, by contrast, is slow and steady. It's not built on what's said in week one. It's built on what's shown in year one. Through action, through consistency, through the quiet, unspoken signals that say, I'm here, I see you. I don't need to dump my past to prove it. Aristotle believed that true friendship is based not on usefulness or pleasure, but on goodness, on mutual respect, on time-tested virtue. But manufactured intimacy skips all of that. It's fast food connection. High emotional calories, but no nourishment. It leaves you full and empty at the same time. And when the emotions fade, as they always do, You're left with someone who doesn't really know you and doesn't want to. They just wanted someone to cling to, someone to anchor their chaos. And if that someone isn't you anymore, they'll move on, fast, just like they arrived. The hard part is recognizing it while you're in it, because it's easy to confuse intensity with depth, but depth is quiet. It doesn't demand. It doesn't rush. It respects space, pace, and silence. You'll know it not by how quickly someone shares, but by how patiently they listen. Not by how much they reveal, but by how they respond when you say no or not yet or I need time. The person who honors your boundaries, even when it frustrates them, is the one worth trusting, not the one who floods you with feeling to fast-track your loyalty. So if someone tries to bond too quickly, if they turn your early conversations into confessionals, if they ask for emotional favors you haven't had time to earn, pay attention. They're not looking for connection, they're looking for control. And it's okay to step back to say, this is too much too soon to protect your peace without apology, because true closeness is never coerced. It's chosen again and again through presence, not pressure. And when you remember that, you stop falling for the illusion of intimacy. You start choosing what's real. You start protecting your inner life, not just from harm, but from intrusion. And you realize being loved is not about how quickly someone gets close to you. It's about how well they hold space while they earn the right to stay. They always seem to know what no one else does. The ones who come bearing whispers, warnings, stories laced with drama, and just enough truth to sound credible. They smile as they pour the tea, make you feel like you're special for hearing it, like you're in the inner circle. But while you're listening, while you're laughing, while you're nodding in quiet agreement, something else is happening beneath the surface. They're not just informing you, they're conditioning you, grooming you into a space where gossip feels like connection, where shared secrets masquerade as trust. But the price you pay for that moment of inside knowledge is far higher than it first appears. Because gossip is rarely innocent. It's rarely just entertainment. It's a tool. Sometimes it's a shield. Sometimes it's a weapon. But it's always a signal. A signal that the person delivering it lacks boundaries. That they carry people's reputations in their hands like they're holding water, loose, careless, spilling everywhere. They dress it up in smiles, in concern, even in fake empathy. I just thought you should know. Don't tell anyone I said this, but... And in those phrases, what they're really saying is, I trade in people's names, and I will spend yours too. Marcus Aurelius warned, the things you think about determine the quality of your mind. But the gossiper wants to fill your mind with noise, other people's failures, private matters, missteps you were never meant to see, because gossip, by its nature, drags your attention downward. It tempts you to judge instead of reflect, to feel superior instead of curious. It invites you into a loop of suspicion and distraction, keeping your focus on what others are doing wrong instead of what you should be doing better. And the longer you stay in that loop, the easier it becomes to forget that you were never meant to be there in the first place. It often starts with charm. They're witty, observant, socially sharp. They always seem to have the latest story, and at first it feels harmless, maybe even useful. But the more you let them speak, the more you realize they're not just telling stories, they're practicing a craft that carves wedges between people, one whisper at a time. And those wedges don't just separate you from others, they separate you from yourself. You start questioning people you used to trust. You start filtering every conversation through the lens of doubt, because the moment you hear one thing, you assume two more. You start wondering, what are they saying about me when I'm not in the room? And that's the core truth. The one who brings gossip is the one who will carry your name into the next conversation. Carl Jung once said, shame is a soul-eating emotion, and gossip is shame weaponized. It's the spreading of shadows before the person has a chance to stand in the light. It's often based on fragments, half-truths, or interpretations warped by ego. And when your name becomes part of that economy, your character is no longer your own. It gets shaped in spaces you've never entered, by people you've never met, because someone else decided your story was easier to sell than to understand. And that's the danger. You won't know when it starts. You won't see the fire until it's already spread. And by the time the damage is visible, the trust you've spent years building has been eroded by invisible hands. Gossipers don't burn bridges with flames. They do it with smoke, with suspicion, suggestion, with the soft corrosion of what people believe before they ever meet you. Their power is quiet, but that doesn't make it any less dangerous. You don't need to confront them. You don't need to match their energy. You just need to step away. Without drama. Without warning. Without becoming another story they tell. Let your silence be your boundary. Let your absence protect you. Protect your name. Epictetus taught that we should never argue with fools because people watching may not be able to tell the difference. The same applies here. If you fight a gossiper, you step into their arena. You validate their method. But if you walk away, if you become unavailable to their narratives, you deny them the one thing they need most, access. And once you do, something powerful happens. Your life becomes cleaner, quieter, more yours. You stop carrying the weight of conversations that were never meant to happen. You stop wondering what other people think of you, because the people who matter will speak to you, not about you. You begin to realize that real relationships are built on discretion, on loyalty and silence, on respect when no one's watching. The ones worth keeping are the ones who protect your name like it's their own. Not because you're perfect, but because they understand that everyone deserves the dignity of being known directly, not interpreted through someone else's mouth. Seneca said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." And gossipers by nature make you worse. Not because they change your values, but because they distract you from them. They pull your attention into places of noise and ego and petty comparison when your life should be directed toward clarity, action, and stillness. The longer you sit at the table where other people's reputations are the main course, the more likely it is that your own will end up on the plate. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to expose them. You just need to refuse to be near them, because some people don't need to be confronted. They just need to be uninvited. And when you do that, you don't just protect your peace. You start raising the standards of the space around you. Your silence sends a message, your distance draws a line, and over time the people who respect you will know exactly where you stand, not just by what you say, but by what you no longer allow. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Not because you're afraid, not because you don't have the words, but because you've already seen enough. You've watched the same pattern repeat again and again, promises made, broken just as quickly, excuses rehearsed, apologies that sound more like strategies than sincerity. At some point, you stop needing more evidence. You just see it for what it is. A cycle, not a one-time mistake. And the truth is, once you truly see it, there's nothing left to explain. No confrontation to stage. No speech that will fix what they were never interested in preserving. We live in a culture obsessed with closure. We're told to write it all out, to share how we feel, to have the talk. But not every door needs to be slammed to be closed. Some are better left locked and untouched, sealed by quiet recognition, not noise. Because silence is not avoidance. It's precision. It's control. It's a decision to no longer give energy to what drains you. You don't need a dramatic goodbye. You don't need to unpack your healing journey for them to validate it. You're not obligated to justify growth to someone who is only comfortable with your smaller version. Power, real power, doesn't scream. It disappears. It becomes unreachable. And when you stop responding, not just with words, but with attention, they begin to feel it. Not because you're punishing them, but because their influence collapses in your absence. What once felt significant starts to feel empty, and that the consequence they never expected. People often mistake silence for weakness, but silence is the final boundary. It's what you offer when all other forms of respect have been exhausted. The louder they get, the quieter you become, not out of fear, but out of resolve. You've chosen not to let their noise penetrate your peace. That's not cruelty. That's discipline. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Silence is how you protect your mind from that trap. It's how you remind yourself that your energy is a privilege, not an entitlement. And what they feel isn't abandonment. It's irrelevance. It's knowing the person who used to reply, talk things out, stick up for themselves, or get upset just isn't there anymore. They don't get to your feelings, not because you're trying to be mean, but because you've taken your feelings back. The tie isn't cut with a fight, but with quiet, and in that quiet, the load moves. They don't get to tell your story anymore. You do. Not by fighting back, but by stepping away. This is what most people get wrong. They think getting better means making up, that letting go means writing notes, holding each other, forgiving in a big way. But growing, in the truest way, often happens quietly, without anyone seeing. It happens when you stop asking someone to be nicer to you and start being nice to yourself, like you're someone worth looking after. When you stop trying to show how much you hurt and start keeping your calm, because after a while, wanting to be understood turns into wanting to be free. When you clear out your life, not with anger but with a clear mind, and when you let go of people who weaken your beliefs, not because you dislike them, but because you want to respect yourself, there's a calm grace in leaving without making a big show of it. You don't need praise for keeping your peace. You don't need anyone to get why you stopped being around. The people who truly know you won't need you to explain, and the ones who want an explanation weren't paying attention anyway. When your silence says more than you being there, you know you've changed. You're not fighting for your place anymore. You've made it. You're not asking to be heard anymore. You've found peace in not needing to be, and that's a strength no one can steal. because it comes from inside you, from choosing not to be part of things that bring you down. There will be times when you want to explain things again, when you feel bad, when you wonder if you should have said or done more, or given them one more chance. But remember, if they cared about what you had to say, they wouldn't have waited until you stopped talking. And if they only listen when you're gone, they weren't listening to you before. So let your being gone be the end of it. Let your quietness set the limit. Don't try to be seen by those who ignored you when it was important. Real strength isn't about how loudly you leave. It's about how calmly you choose not to stay. And once you've learned to speak without saying anything, you won't waste your words on those who don't deserve them. Some things don't need a big goodbye, just to be left alone. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to say nothing. If this made sense to you, there's more to learn. Watch one of the videos on your screen to keep going on this road of understanding and strength. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal.